What's new in ArcGIS Pro 2.1? You can now work with your map's feature service layers offline or disconnected from your organization. The catalog view can also be displayed in gallery or tiles mode. You can drag and drop items from your file system into open projects in between instances of the application. The paths to your data sources can also easily be copied. The metadata for your map layers can now be edited too. And you will now receive notifications from your shared and updated projects, web maps, and web scenes. You can now copy formatted map coordinates into your clipboard. View 3D scenes in isometric view mode for architectural displays that are measurable. Use interactive analytical tools in 3D to understand lines of sight along a road from different locations. Or viewshed coverage into a canyon. And create arcade expressions to embed calculated fields into your pop-ups. Here we have both textured and untextured buildings. Using a definition query, I can show only textured buildings in this scene layer. The unclassed renderer allows us to retain textures and show maximum building heights. If we wish to hide a particular building to show a proposed new development, we can select the individual building, hide it, and then replace it with the proposed building. And with improved caching, we have better rendering of dense aerial data as well as dense interior point cloud data. Linear referencing hatching can now be configured in the standard symbology model. This is achieved by using a marker placement called add measured units. This can then be combined with text markers mapped to an attribute using an arcade expression to pull the measure from the feature. Since this is integrated with the standard symbology model, we can also draw this in multi-scale, which will add more hash ticks as we zoom in through the map. In addition to drawing this in ArcGIS Pro, this map can be shared as a map image layer in ArcGIS Enterprise, where the symbology will draw with the same multi-scale behavior. You can now use dot density symbology in ArcGIS Pro. Here you can see the acreage of upland cotton indicated by purple dots. I can add additional fields to see different crops in this dataset and compare how that distribution differs. ArcGIS Pro now has improved support for text and vector markers, including the ability to attribute map the text. For example, in this marker I have 3 numeric values. With an arcade expression, I can pull the feature intensity from each value. As this is played through time, the intensity, category of storm, and storm type update for this hurricane dataset. This capability also works in 3D. Here I have chosen to map the storm type to a specific glyph in a font to indicate tropical storm versus hurricane using the standard symbols. You can now reorder label classes individually or in groups. The label parameters from one class can also be copied and pasted into another. You can copy all of the parameters or just the ones you'd like. When you convert labels to annotation, the global ID field will be used for the feature-linked annotation relationship. You can now use find text to set the text string based on feature attributes before you add annotation features. Using the annotation editing tool, you can update the text string on the map. To format a subset of the string, you can highlight a portion and make the change from the formatting toolbar. To commit the edit and select a different annotation, just click a different annotation feature. The annotation editing tool now has context menu items for stacking and other annotation editing functionality. To format annotation prior to creation, just go to the active template pane and select the appropriate settings. ArcGIS Pro now has an API that supports annotation. In this example, I've written a standalone application in Visual Studio. I've opened up a geodatabase. I'm going to open an annotation feature class and get a reference to this feature class object. With this update anno method, I can query the first 100 features of this feature class and update the height of the text symbol from 10 to 6 points. And this annotation model supports the full set of text symbol properties. In page layout, we've added new components to the grids and gradicules to support the military grid reference system and the U.S. National Grid. Those include corner labels, 100,000-meter grid zones, and interior labels. We've also added support for dynamic tables. You can control the table formatting by setting the sort order, spacing, and the symbology of the headings, rows, and fields. The tables are dynamic, so they update to reflect the changes in the map. We've made it easier than ever to explore your data through visual analytics, and generating statistics is just a right-click away. Use on-the-fly transformations and overlays along with interactive selection to understand the structure of your data before you begin your analysis. To support your exploratory spatial analysis workflows, we've added a new chart type, QQplot, as another way to compare a variable to a normal distribution or to another variable. New controls allow you to adjust your access bounds for consistency across charts and format your numeric variable for clean, easy-to-read, insightful visualizations. You can now collect 3D features from stereo images. The new stereo map can display stereo models of satellite, aerial, and drone images, and works with a collection of stereo models. You can filter and select models using the Stereo Model Selector pane, or use the Best Stereo Model tool to let the system pick one for you. Using the shortcut keys, you can adjust the parallax to achieve better stereo vision, and use the tools on the Stereo tab to adjust the display. Stereo Map now supports the superimposition of features and symbology, allowing you to add feature classes to your stereo maps and collect features. You can choose a pixel resolution, and the magnifier window will position the stereo cursor precisely. The collected feature will then show up in the linked map and scene views. The fixed cursor mode centers the cursor and parallax so that you can navigate and collect features efficiently. We have also added raster function history, where you can filter, sort, and search for local and portal jobs. With the new Image Analyst extension, you have the ability to view imagery without any distortion using the image coordinate system. In this side-by-side view, we have an oblique digital globe satellite image with feature data. On the left, the image is displayed in map space, with north oriented at the top of the display. And on the right is the same satellite image displayed in image space, with the tops of the buildings oriented at the top of the display. Image space provides users access to displaying imagery without any distortion. Instead of forcing the imagery to fit onto a map, you can now force other GIS data to accurately fit onto the image. We've added several Image Analyst geoprocessing tools, as well as 6 new hydrology functions. Using the new multidimensional dialog, you can add variables from NetCDF, GRIB, and HDF files as multidimensional raster layers, allowing you to perform analysis using raster functions and animate the results using the time and range sliders. ArcGIS Pro 2.1 has over 200 new geoprocessing tools across a variety of toolboxes and new extensions. One of these new tools is XY Table to Point, which you can use to create a point feature class from a table of X, Y, and Z coordinates. Another new tool is Calculate Fields, which you can use to calculate multiple fields in one operation, resulting in faster performance. The Calculate Field tool was enhanced so you can now execute arcade and SQL expressions in addition to Python expressions. A new Start Editing option was added to a number of tools that update or modify the input dataset attributes or geometry so you can undo the operation within an edit session. You can also configure and use interactive feature sets with your custom model and script tools so that the interactive input has customized symbology, attribute fields, editing templates, and attribute prompts. Business Analyst is now a part of ArcGIS Pro. We've added 4 commonly used tools for analysis, reporting, and trade areas. In the color-coded layer tool, we can quickly make a map from any variable. This data browser allows you to easily search and filter demographic data with toggles, sliders, and percents. And when you're signed into ArcGIS Pro, this data is available for virtually any country in the world. Three new clustering tools have been added to the Spatial Statistics toolbox that utilize machine learning techniques. The density-based clustering tool finds clusters of point features within surrounding noise based purely on their spatial distribution using the methods of dbScan, HDBScan, or optics. The multivariate clustering tool finds natural clusters of features based solely on feature attribute values using the k-means++ algorithm. Clustering contiguous regions of features can be achieved by using the spatial constrained multivariate clustering tool. Here are several stacked surfaces and a number of cross-section lines. Using the new fence diagram tool, we can cut vertical slices from the cross-section lines through the surfaces to produce features that represent the areas between those surfaces. The resulting features can be symbolized based on the top and bottom surfaces used to construct each one. You can now use Network Analyst to plan your routes and share them as route layers. You can add stops to the route and then find the best sequence to visit the stops. Once you have finished the route, you can then share the route layer to your ArcGIS Online or Enterprise portal. The Data Interoperability extension includes the quick import and quick export geoprocessing tools to easily take data in and out of your formats of choice in GeoDatabase. I like to include either tool in a custom set of conversion tools in my analysis ribbon. For added flexibility, you can also wrap either tool in a model. Here we will edit a tool that takes data from the map, makes a selection, and copies the data to a Spatialite file on disk. The result of the conversion is a file that can be easily emailed and used both within ArcGIS Pro and other applications. Python has been upgraded and includes many improvements like interpolated strings, the ArcGIS API for Python, and Jupyter Notebooks. You can now create conda environments allowing you to install and manage sophisticated packages in a self-contained location. Calculate field has been enhanced with direct date time support, and debugging Python scripts has never been easier. You can debug your script tools directly within Visual Studio, setting breakpoints and interactively moving between the script and ArcGIS Pro. ModelBuilder now has logical tools to help branch your models, and search filters that quickly take you to your search elements, as well as an auto-generated list that honors regular expressions. Also new is the Models Report. This lists all the variables, processes, in each tool with its messages and parameter details. The report also allows you to auto-sync any edits you have made to the model. The editing grid is now available in 3D. You can align it to your existing data and set the appropriate spacing. The grid's elevation will derive from features or surfaces that you click in the scene. Combined with snapping, you can use the grid as a guide when drawing new features. You can also use it to place and reposition 3D models by aligning them to the grid's lines and intersections. It also provides the ability to snap incrementally when moving features along the vertical axis. The grid is intended to help you save time and clicks by providing drawing guides directly on screen. When creating a connection to an Oracle Workflow Manager database, you can select which Oracle schema you'd like to connect to. Users can now also update their own login information when connecting to a data workspace. Jobs can also be cloned into new jobs that contain the properties and AOA of its source. The workflow pane now allows users to select which step in parallel they'd like to work on. We've also made a Pro configuration SDK sample that allows you to expose only the workflow pane as the UI of a Workflow Manager. You can now share scene layers from feature layers that reference registered data, so the data isn't copied to the server. When sharing scene layers, you can optionally cache on the server or on the client. You can share custom web styles containing 3D model markers to your online organization, which can then be used to author scene and feature layers in the scene viewer. You can also now override dynamic map image layers. And finally, you can manage the federated server's data store of ArcGIS Enterprise. Create and manage folder and database connections that can be used to share layers referencing registered data. The ArcGIS Pro SDK 2.1 provides utility network support with the ability to create custom tools which create start points and then run, analyze, and report on the results of a network trace. Here you can see new SDK support for layouts. You can create new layouts from scratch with dynamic settings, interact with layout views, author layout elements, and manage element selections. There are also SDK enhancements in the areas of annotation and portal. Aviation users can now create their runway sign features in 3D. Using the integrated editing experience, you can very easily design sign panels with type and text. These changes are then automatically applied to your features.